بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته, and welcome to Takaful online course. And today we talk about the prohibitions of Takaful. And as you know, when it comes to the prohibitions, you may say it's a kind of a standard prohibitions across the Islamic finance industry, meaning that the same prohibitions that you may see in Islamic banking are the same prohibitions that you expect in the Takaful industry, and they are the same prohibitions in the Islamic capital market. So they are common prohibitions when it comes to the Islamic finance industry. So, but the only thing and the only difference between the Islamic banking and Takaful and Islamic capital market is the nature of the activity. For example, in Islamic banking is providing financing mainly, of course, in addition to other activities. And when it comes to the Takaful, is to provide a kind of coverage and protections. And when it comes to the Islamic capital market, it's talking about investments, meaning that you observe those prohibitions that we are going to highlight briefly, whether in terms of financing in the context of banking, or in providing protections cover in terms of Takaful, or doing investments when it comes to the Islamic capital market. So it is more on the applications and the field of specializations of each industry, and how you customize and apply it in a day-to-day business activity of the Islamic financial institutions. But as far as the prohibitions, they are common and they are the same. So again, briefly on that. So the first prohibitions, as you know, is the riba, the prohibitions of riba and the prohibitions of interest. So I will just try to be briefly on these prohibitions because they have been somehow covered in other sessions in details. Just to recap, interest or riba is of course prohibited. Of course, in the context of banking, meaning they don't finance institutions which do basically an interest-bearing activities. But when it comes to Takaful, so you don't finance basically because there is no such financing in Takaful. But here we are talking about protections and coverage. So meaning you don't underwrite those risks, you don't provide that kind of coverage to the financial institutions which are doing financial activities which are based on riba. And the same which go to the Islamic capital market, you don't invest in institutions which are doing and having activities based on riba. So that's basically the application. But as I mentioned, when it comes to the riba, is across the board, is throughout the Islamic finance industry. It's just how you apply those prohibitions and customize them based on the nature of the financial institutions and based on the nature of its daily business activities in terms of banking, financing, or Takaful coverage, or Islamic capital market investment. So again, since we are in the Takaful, let's more focus on the Takaful. So in this case, when it comes to the coverage and protections, so basically among the checklist that the Takaful institutions has to make sure that they are covering an institutions which is not involved in the Islamic business, which is not involved in activities which is not in compliance with the Islamic business activities, or which is not in compliance with the Sharia requirements, or doing some kind of activities which is based on riba. So this is the first one. The second one is the gharar. Gharar, of course, also we have mentioned it. It's a kind of uncertainty and ambiguity. And here, when it comes to the gharar, normally in practice of the business operations or business activities of the financial institutions, normally we refer to the insurance. Again, so basically, Takaful cannot provide coverage also to other what's so-called financial institutions which are at the insurance space. Also, the Takaful operator is not allowed to reinsure its business to the reinsurance company, but they can go to a Takaful. And why? Because the insurance business concept is built upon gharar, or the gharar is very much and strongly integrated in the nature of the business operation of the insurance business. So basically they are not allowed to provide the coverage when they need it, and also they are not allowed to reinsure their business with the reinsurance company, but they have to go, of course, to the Takaful. But sometimes the Takaful operators may basically share part of its risk to the reinsurance, or cede part of this its risk to the reinsurance because of the limitations or a limited capacity of the Takaful business, or the scope that the Takaful operator tried to cover and underwrite is not within the scope of the Takaful company. So as a result of that, based on necessity and darura, and of course subject to specific SOP within the Takaful operators, and based on the approval of the Sharia committee, so they may go to the reinsurance. The other prohibitions is basically the gambling, which is also not allowed, means that you cannot provide coverage or protections for institutions which are doing gambling business, because it's not allowed. The other prohibitions basically is the prohibited product and services, and here we are talking about processing, producing and marketing alcohol and non-permissible drink. We are talking about supplying non-halal basically meat like pork and other prohibitions. We are talking about providing immoral basically services like operating disco and so on and so forth. So these kind of prohibitions will fall also under the negative list of the Takaful what so-called operations. And again, normally in practice, those prohibitions which are riba, gambling, and gharar and prohibited product and services, in practice they are customized in a form of checklist, so to make the business operations more easy, more friendly, more measurable, in order to do the checklist box to make sure that basically the financial institutions which request an Islamic business is in compliance with the guideline of the Takaful operator and doesn't violate any kind of prohibitions, to ensure the Sharia compliance status all the time and avoid any kind of Sharia non-compliance activity. So this is briefly in overall the high-level descriptions of the prohibitions of Takaful. Other details basically you can get it from other presentations that we have done in details on the overall prohibitions in Islamic finance. With that, thank you very much, and see you inshallah in the coming session. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.